What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking all about small swim baits. You know, this is one of the most deadly techniques anywhere you go in the country. Just taking one of those small 3.3, 3.8 inch swim baits and doing what I like to call scrubbing it. It's casting it out, sinking it to the bottom, and slow winding that bait back to you. It's just a deadly retrieve. So we're gonna dive in, show you everything I do, everything I use, equipment, line, rod, reel, baits, all that stuff. That's all coming up. All right, so for this video, we're starting from scratch. I got me a brand new favorite Hex series rod. This is the 7.2 medium heavy model. So this is an extremely light rod, but it's very powerful. You know, it's a medium heavy power, so I can drive that hook in on a long cast. It's so light, you're not gonna get fatigued fishing this rod all day long. You know, you can cast it out there, you can keep that rod tip up. It's not gonna hurt your arm. You know, you can just fish this rod extremely well. Not to mention, it is extremely sensitive. So you can feel those real light bites when they're just nipping at it, or sometimes they even push it towards you and your line will just go slack. And you need to be very focused and have a very sensitive rod in order to detect those bites and be able to drive that hook in. So we're starting from scratch. I got me a favorite jackhammer spinning reel. We're gonna put that on the Hex here. So there's my rod and reel right there. Next, we need some line. I like to go with Seaguar Smackdown braid. This is 20 pound. The 20 pound braid allows the best casting. You know, it's a super thin diameter. This is 0.007 diameter. So you're able to get an extremely long cast with that diameter braid. And of course, you know, it's super strong. So you're able to drive that hook in on a long cast. That is very important to use the braid to then a fluorocarbon leader. This is the Seaguar Gold label. I like to go with 10 pound for this technique because you don't want to get too light of line. You'll end up breaking off when that bait is bouncing on the bottom. And this Gold label here is a smaller diameter but stronger than most other fluorocarbons on the market. So you're able to get away with the 10 pound because it's actually a smaller diameter than most other 10 pound model fluorocarbon on the market. So let's get this reel spooled up and then we'll dive into the next step of scrubbing a swim bait. All right, so I got my braid all spooled up here. The next step is to tie on my leader. We're gonna tie an FG knot to this Seaguar Gold label. If you're not familiar with how to tie an FG knot, I'll give you a quick lesson here. I'm not gonna get into very much detail, I'm just gonna fly through it, but if you can pay attention, maybe rewind a couple times, rewatch the video, you'll learn how I personally tie an FG knot. All right, so it's kind of hard to talk while I'm tying an FG knot because I have to use my mouth to bite the line. But most important thing about tying an FG knot is getting tension. You need tension on this line here. So I like to lay the rod away from me and I'll bite this, my main braid right here. I take my fluorocarbon from the left side and lay it across the braid like so. And then we pinch it, and you lift up, grab your fluorocarbon, go over this way, and then pull it tight. And you're gonna do that. That was 1, 2, so you're gonna count to 25. All right, there's 25 right there. So you're gonna lay your fluorocarbon up your main line towards your rod, take the braid that was in your mouth, and you're just gonna tie an overhand knot over both of those. And then I actually tie 3 of them, just to be sure that it is locked down and that it's not gonna unravel. All right, got your overhand knots. Then you want to take and pull the knot totally tight, make sure that it's locked in and it's good to go. Trim your tag ends, and that's an FG knot. It's really easy. You know, a lot of people think it's harder than it is. The hardest part is just figuring out how to keep that tension on the line. You know, I like to use my mouth and I'll use my feet to hold my rod so I'm not pulling it towards me. But that's honestly the hardest part of tying an FG knot. So there you go, there's a perfect FG knot. So we got our leader tied on now. I like to use a fairly short leader, to be honest. I don't like that knot getting down into my reel. So I'm gonna stop it while it's still in the guides of the rod. So let's get this in here. Tie up my line. All right, there's that. Whoops, we got that in backwards. Put my gold label away, like so. All right, so we got a leader on now. We got rod, reel, line. Next, what you need is a jig head. Now, I have tried every jig head on the market. I've poured them myself, I've bought them all, I've gone to Fisherman Central and walked down the jig head aisle and picked out every single one, and I've tried them all. And me personally, I settled on these right here, and this is called the Bass Cave Tackle Screw Lock Deadhead. So you can see I got quite the selection here. And the coolest thing about the Bass Cave Tackle heads is they have all different sizes and all different hook sizes within those sizes. So like this one right here, this is a 1/4 ounce 3/0. Okay, right here we have a 1/4 ounce 4/0. Right here we have a 1/4 ounce 2/0. We got a 1/4 ounce 5/0. You know, you got all these different hook sizes within a 1/4 ounce, so you can pick the perfect jig head for this swim bait that you're throwing. That's one of the most important things. You know, there's not one set jig head for, say, a 3.3 inch swim bait. That obviously you're going to want a different hook size on, say, a 4.8 inch swim bait. So this is the nice thing about the Bass Cave heads, is that you can tweak your hook size to the exact bait that you're throwing. But 90% of the time for me, when I'm throwing a 3.3 inch swim bait, I'm going with the 1/4 ounce 3/0 hook. So that's this one right here. We're gonna dive into that in a second, you know, why I choose 1/4 ounce and when I choose other sizes. But that's a general rundown of the Bass Cave Tackle Screw Lock Deadheads. And once I rig this bait up, you'll see exactly why I love this head so much. But we're gonna go ahead and tie this jig head on here now. I just use a standard fisherman's knot, improved clinch, whatever you want to call it. It's what works for me, as long as it's tied right. There we are. Take them scissors, trim that close. All right, we got ourselves a jig head on now. We are tied up and ready to go. So next step is going to be a bait. You know, I have tried, just like every jig head, I have tried every swim bait on the market. And you know, Kitex are great, but the big problem with Kitex is they rip up, they tear so easily. You catch one fish and the bait gets tore up. And you know, when they come in only what, 6, 7, 8 packs, you're going through a couple packs of Kitex a day, and that gets expensive. And these right here, these are the Guggen Saucy Swimmer. They are so much more durable than any other swim bait that I've used. I am super impressed with them right there. Now, they all got the same general profile, body, paddle tail. You know, they swim great, they got the same action, but these ones here are so much more durable. That's why I like to use these, because it's saving me time on the water. I don't have to sit down and rig up new baits. So combined with this screw lock head and the little bit more durable baits, you're saving yourself so much time and money. And in turn, that helps you catch more fish. So to rig up this bait here on this head, you're gonna start it like your standard ball head jig head. Okay, we're gonna slide it down like so. Now I like to make sure these are very straight. You know, I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I like my bait to be perfectly straight so that thing is swimming perfect in the water. So you're gonna slide it up till you hit the screw lock. And then this is where a lot of people don't know what to do. They kind of get confused right here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna start spinning the head of the bait up that screw lock, and then you have to tuck the tail under the hook like so. So you're gonna spin that and just keep on spinning. Keep on spinning. Give that a few more spins till it's up flush against the head. And now that swim bait right there is locked on that jig head. I could pull this as hard as you want, and that head will not slide off of there. You see it's stretching the bait actually. It's not pulling off, it's stretching the midsection of the bait. So that head is locked on there, and that swim bait is gonna catch multiple fish before that bait gets tore up. And that is why you use the Bass Cave Tackle screw lock deadhead jig heads. So there is the finished product right there. That is ready for action, ready to be thrown out, sunk to the bottom, and scrubbed back to the boat. Now, a couple other key features on the Bass Cave Tackle screw lock deadhead is this 90-degree line tie right here. That is very, very important on a swim bait jig head. You do not want a 60-degree line tie. It just allows the bait to stay deeper. The 90-degree hook tie affects, actually, let me rephrase that. Any line tie affects how your bait swims in the water. So this 90-degree line tie helps keep the bait on the bottom. When you have a 60-degree line tie, it's at more of an angle and it's wanting to pull that bait up off the bottom. So the 90-degree line tie is very important. The hook, that's probably the most important thing in any jig head. You know, you need a good, strong hook. This is a Gamakatsu hook, and it does not flex. That's the most important thing. So many lost fish are due to hooks flexing. You won't realize it when you look at it, you pull your bait back in and it looks normal, but that hook will flex for just a second and it'll pop right out of the fish's mouth. So you need a good strong hook that won't flex. You could actually throw these on a bait caster and not have any problems at all, but I prefer the spinning rod, and we're gonna get into that right now. Well, now we got everything rigged up. You know, you got yourself perfect spinning combo, got some fresh 20-pound braid, 10-pound fluorocarbon leader, got you a nice Guggen Saucy Swimmer swim bait, and the Bass Cave Tackle jig head. Now it's time to fish this bait. So it's very, very simple. First, locations. I like to target more flatter points. That's a great place to start. You know, you find a nice, long, slow tapering point that comes out into the main lake. There will be fish on that somewhere. So depending on the time of year, you're gonna have to find the depth range to target, but I would start out deep, make a long cast, as long as you can cast that bait, and just let it sink. Just leave your bail open, let that thing sink all the way to the bottom. Then you're gonna wanna give it a few twitches, and what that's gonna do is straighten out your line. So when you make a long cast, that bait sinks down, but your line is still on the surface. So if you start winding immediately, it's gonna pull that bait right up off the bottom, and then you're gonna, you know, even out your retrieve on the way back. So if you give it a few pops, that kind of straightens out your line in that water column, and then let it sink back to the bottom, and then start your nice slow retrieve back. Pause it every once in a while and make sure that it falls back to the bottom, but just nice slow retrieve. And you're gonna wanna feel it bouncing on the bottom. If there's any rock, rubble, brush piles, anything like that, you're gonna wanna try and feel that. You know, I like to keep my rod probably at a 45-degree angle. That way you can feel all those little subtleties. And honestly, with this favorite hex rod, you can actually feel that tail spinning, that tail kicking on a swim bait. It's pretty incredible that you can feel those types of things. Now, you're gonna be swimming this bait along, and all of a sudden it's gonna go dunk. And that's when you got a bite. So you don't wanna wind in and just give them a haymaker hook set. You don't wanna do that. What I like to do is whenever you feel that bite, just start winding fast till it loads up, and then give them just a lean back. Don't slack line and crack them. That's no good. You're gonna end up breaking fish off or pop the bait out of their mouth. So whenever you feel that bite, they got it. They come up and they ate that whole thing. There's not much there to miss. So, like I said, you gotta be patient with this and just start winding as fast as you can until that rod loads up, and then you're gonna lean into them, and that's gonna guarantee you a good hook set into those fish. After that, the battle is on. You know, you got spinning rod, you got fairly light lines, so loosen up that drag and fight those fish. But with those good equipment, good tackle, good jig head, shouldn't be any problems landing those fish. You know, I've caught upwards of 6-pound smallmouth on this exact setup right here, so definitely can handle those big fish. Well, I can't believe this, but I just gave away all of the juice on one of my favorite techniques, and that's scrubbing a swim bait. So hopefully you guys learned something today. Well, I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you made it to the end here, I appreciate you even more. I'm gonna offer you a special discount code to try some of these Bass Cave Tackle jig heads. So check out the description below. I'm gonna leave that code in there, and you can head on over to basscavetackle.com, check out the whole selection of jig heads, and get yourself some at a pretty nice discount. With all that being said, appreciate you watching. Leave me any likes and comments down below. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, do me a favor, hit that. I'd really appreciate that. I love hearing from you guys, so leave me any comments down below, and stay tuned for some more videos coming. Till then, we'll see you guys next time.